She opened the glass door like she had been standing there, waiting for the exact second my knock landed. Golden hour light poured in behind her, turning the dust in the hallway into gold. Inside, the house looked like it was caught between two lives. One life where it was being rebuilt. One life where it was falling apart. A ladder leaned against the wall in the hall. A canvas drop cloth was bunched in the corner like someone had given up halfway through a job. The floor tile under her bare feet looked cool and clean, but the baseboards were chipped and tired. Elena Vance stood in the doorway with one hand resting on the frame and the other near the latch like she could shut the world out whenever she wanted. She wore a fitted white camisole and a black high-waisted skirt. Simple, sharp, expensive, and intentional. Her dark hair fell in loose waves over one shoulder. Her face had that teasing, confident look that never quite turned into a full smile. I stood on her porch with my shoulders still warm from hauling lumber out of my truck. My gray t-shirt clung to my back. My jeans were dusty. My hands smelled like pine and metal. Her eyes locked on my face like we were already in the middle of a conversation. "You're late," she said. "I'm on time," I answered because I was. I had come in the only window the city had given her. Her mouth curved, not kind and not cruel, just amused. "I dare you to tell me you're not nervous," she murmured. I stepped closer, close enough to see the tiny gold stud in her ear, close enough to feel cool house air meeting the warm air from the yard between us. "I'm not nervous," I lied. Her eyes dropped to my hands, then back up. "Good. Then you'll be useful." It should have sounded like an order. It sounded more like an invitation. By noon that day, the city had condemned her house. By 3, the red notice was taped to her front window like a public insult. Unsafe for occupancy. 48 hours to fix it or get out. The inspector had walked through with heavy boots and a flashlight, talking more to his clipboard than to her. The porch post leaned like an old man. The electrical panel hummed in a way that made my teeth feel wrong. "I can pay whatever it costs," she had told him, standing there in a crisp blazer, arms folded, chin high. "It's not about money," he replied. "It's about time." Then he left. Her $1 million resume did not matter. Her neat life did not matter. The only thing that mattered now was structure. That was how I ended up on her porch. I was a contractor, not a hero, not a miracle worker, just a guy who knew how to make wood and nails obey physics again. "Your high tower," she said now, like she was confirming something she had already checked. "Yes, ma'am," I said. "I don't want ma'am," she replied. "I want results." I did not flinch. "Then don't stand in my way," I said. For a second, her eyes widened like she was surprised I pushed back. Then she smiled like she liked it. "Fine," she said. "Show me what you need." Inside, the air smelled like old paint and damp plaster with something faint and sweet underneath, like clay after rain. The smell of a house holding its breath. I walked the perimeter. I tapped boards with my knuckles. I listened. I felt how the hallway floor gave a little under my weight. I checked the panel. I ran my fingers along swollen window trim. "This is not a cosmetic fix," I said. "I did not hire you for cosmetics," she answered. On the porch, I crouched near the post. The base was dark and soft. Water damage. The last storm had finished what years had started. "I need pressure-treated posts," I said. "Joist hangers. A new breaker. Extra hardware. And I am going to brace this porch like it owes me money." Elena nodded once. "Do it." Then she pulled out her phone and turned her whole world into a project. "I need a pallet of 4x6, pressure-treated, same day," she said into the line. "I don't care what it costs. Put it on my card." She paused, listened, then kept going. "And I need an electrical panel pulled and ready by morning. I'll pay the rush fee." She hung up and looked at me like she had just cleared a runway. "Tell me what else," she said. The list was easy. The cost, for both of us, was not. I was carrying lumber toward the back of the house when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. "Hightower Construction," I said. "Liam Hightower?" a man asked. His voice was smooth and polished. "Expensive." "That's me," I said. "This is Marcus Thorne," he said. My shoulders went tight. I knew the name. Everyone around here knew the name. Thorne did not build houses. He built leverage. "I hear you are working on Elena Vance's property," he said. I glanced toward the kitchen window. Through the glass, I could see Elena at the sink. Her blazer was gone. Her hair was pulled back. She was rolling her sleeves like she was trying to make the day feel normal. "That's correct," I said. "She cannot afford to keep fighting the city," Thorne said. People like her think money fixes everything, but money does not fix a condemnation order. Sometimes a house has sentimental value, but sentimental value does not keep it standing. The word sentimental rolled out of his mouth like a threat. I don't discuss clients, I said. He gave a soft laugh. You don't have to. I already know the timeline. 48 hours. Inspections. Paperwork. Stress. She should let go, Mr. Hightower. Sell. Move on. Sometimes it's kinder to stop struggling. I stopped walking. What do you want? I asked. There was a small pause. Nothing, he said. Just a bit of advice. Contractor to contractor. Be careful who you tie your reputation to. Then he hung up. I stood in the yard with evening light warm on my skin and cold in my chest. Inside, Elena laughed at something on her phone. No idea a man like Thorne had just circled her name. I picked the lumber back up and kept working. Acts of service did not need permission. We worked until the sky turned orange. Elena tried to help at first. She carried light boards. She held the flashlight. She handed me screws with careful fingers. After 10 minutes, I saw a raw blister forming on her palm. She looked at it like it insulted her. You cannot argue with wood, I said, driving a screw into place. I can argue with anyone, she said. Wood does not care, I answered. She stared at me, then blew out a sharp breath like she hated that I was right. The next smart thing she did was step back and watch instead of push. She asked real questions. How do you know that post is rotten without cutting it? She asked. I tapped it with my knuckles. The sound was hollow and wrong. Because it lies when it is dying, I said. Her eyes flashed. That sounds poetic, she said. It's practical, I replied. But the way she looked at me said she had seen more than I meant to show. At dusk, the wind picked up. The old metal gutter rattled along the edge of the roof. One section sagged near the porch corner. If it came loose in the next storm, water would dump right on the new post and undo the work. Without thinking, I climbed the ladder and tightened the bracket. The screw bit into the wood. The gutter settled into place. When I climbed down, she was watching me with a new expression. What? I asked. You fixed that, she said. Yeah, I answered. It was going to cause a problem. It was not on the list, she said. I wiped my hands on my jeans. I do not care about the list. I care about the house standing. Something in her face softened for a second. Admiration, maybe. Trust, maybe. It was gone fast, but I saw it. Good, she said quietly. Keep doing that. Inside, she kept flexing her injured hand like she could outstare the pain. While she looked away, I slid a new pair of work gloves across the counter. Soft on the inside. She glanced down at them, then at me. You just carry spare gloves around? She asked. I carry what I need, I said. She picked them up without arguing. For her, that was a thank you. Later, when I killed power at the panel to swap hardware, an old outlet sparked. A sharp pop. A flash. The smell of burned plastic. Elena froze for half a second, then snapped into motion. Breaker, she said, already at the switch, flipping it down with a clean, firm hand. The lights went out. The house went still. You learn fast, I said. I do not have a choice, she replied. Outside, a city truck rolled by slow. It did not stop, just looked. The tires hissed on wet asphalt. Elena's shoulders went straight. I already requested the follow-up inspection, she said. Tomorrow at noon. Good, I said. If he sees the work, it is real. And if he doesn't? She asked. I tightened a bolt until the wood creaked. Then we make him see it, I said. That night, before I crashed on her couch, I found her in the kitchen staring at the red notice taped to the window. Her reflection hovered over the bold letters. I did not ask if she was okay. Instead, I swapped the cheap tape for stronger tape so it would not fall in the night and smear in the damp. Then I grabbed a scrap of plywood and wrote a checklist in thick marker. Inspection ready. Each item a solid thing we could control. She watched me from the corner of her eye. I went to sleep to the sound of wind picking up and rain starting to tap the glass, knowing one thing for sure. The storm was coming, and I was not sure if I was more worried about the house breaking or the way I was already starting to break for her. The storm hit just after midnight. Not soft rain, not a drizzle, a real storm. Wind slammed into the walls. Water hammered the roof so hard it sounded like someone throwing buckets of nails at the house. Thunder shook the old glass. I woke up on the couch with my heart racing, already listening for the one sound I feared the most. Wood under stress. I heard it. A long, low crack from the porch. I was on my feet before I was fully awake. When I stepped into the hallway, Elena was already there. Her hair was down, falling over her shoulders. The white camisole was gone. She wore an oversized gray sweatshirt that slipped off one shoulder. Bare feet. Sharp eyes. Not panicked. "The porch," she said. We moved together without talking. Outside, the wind punched sideways under the porch roof. Cold rain hit my neck like ice. The old beam above the post groaned with every gust. The new brace held, but the weakened wood around it sounded like it was ready to quit. "I need my drill," I shouted. "In the tool bag," she answered, already grabbing it. She did not freeze. She did not scream. She planted her feet, held the flashlight steady with both hands, and aimed the beam exactly where I needed it. I drove the first bolt through the brace, my hands already numb from the cold. Rain ran down my arms. The metal was slick. The drill bit slipped once, scraping my knuckles. Pain flared hot, then vanished under adrenaline. Another gust of wind hit the porch. The beam groaned again, lower this time, like a warning. "Are we safe?" she yelled. "Not yet," I yelled back. I jammed my shoulder into the brace and pushed, using my body as extra support while I drove another bolt in with my free hand. The drill whined. The screw bit. The wood squealed and then locked. The next gust came. The porch shuddered. This time it held. We stayed under the edge of the roof, both breathing hard. Rain still blew in, cold and sharp, but the beam above us was silent now. Solid. The air smelled like wet earth, pine, and metal. Lightning flashed, turning everything white for a second. In that flash, I saw her face clearly. Focused. Alive. Cheeks flushed. Eyes bright from fear and something else. "You handled that," she said when the thunder rolled away. "We handled it," I said. Her eyes held mine. The storm outside felt big, but the space between us suddenly felt smaller. Inside, we peeled off wet layers in the kitchen. Elena handed me a towel without a word. When I did not use it fast enough, she took my hand, pulled it closer, and wiped the rain and grit off my scraped knuckles herself. Her touch was careful, sure, not soft, but gentle in a way that hit harder than it should have. Her hands trembled a little as she poured whiskey into 2 short glasses, just a couple of fingers in each. She shoved one toward me. Our fingers brushed on the rim. A small, stupid contact. My chest still reacted like someone had flipped a switch. The whiskey burned on the way down, then settled warm in my stomach. "I don't do helpless," she said quietly. "You weren't helpless," I said. Her eyes met mine. Whatever she saw there made her jaw tighten, then soften again. "I needed you," she said, and it sounded like a confession she did not like giving. The silence after that was heavy, but not awkward. The house creaked. Wind pushed against the windows. The storm was still loud, but the kitchen felt oddly private. She took one slow step closer. My hand stayed at my sides. I did not move. I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But I waited. Her gaze dropped to my mouth for half a second, then came back to my eyes. "Liam," she said, voice lower now. I held her eyes, letting her choose. She lifted her hand and touched the side of my jaw, fingers warm against my skin. She kept them there. "Steady. Don't pull away," she whispered. So I didn't. My hand rose and settled at her waist. Not gripping, not dragging, just there. Solid. Asking, in its own way. Her breath caught. Then she stepped in the last half-inch between us. The kiss was not careful. It was not polite. It was a clean hit. A collision we had both seen coming and both refused to talk about until now. She pressed closer, fingers curling into my shirt. I tilted my head and deepened it, feeling the storm fade out to a distant roar in my ears. For a few seconds, there was only her mouth, her warmth, the way her body fit against mine like she had always belonged in this house. When we finally broke apart, we stayed close. Her forehead rested against mine for a moment. Our breaths mingled between us. She opened her eyes and gave me a small smile that felt dangerous. "Good," she whispered. Outside, the storm screamed. Inside, the house felt more alive than it had in years. The next morning the sky looked washed clean. Branches were down. Puddles filled the low spots in the yard. The air smelled sharp and fresh. Elena stood on the porch with a mug of coffee in her hand. Her hair was pinned up again. Her face was calm and composed, but every time our eyes met, I saw the memory of last night sitting there between us. I was tightening the last brace when my phone buzzed in my pocket. It was Ben, my friend, and sometimes sub on bigger jobs. The one guy in my life who told me when I was being stupid. Your name's popping up in places you don't want it, he said without hello. I held the drill in one hand, phone in the other. What places? I asked. Permits. Inspections. Licensing board, he said. Somebody's calling in complaints on your jobs. Anonymous, but the pattern is too neat. Too clean. My stomach went tight. Who? I asked, even though I already knew. Thorn, Ben said. This is his style. Lots of little cuts until you bleed out. I looked over at Elena. She had moved to the planter boxes, clipping dead blooms. She hummed softly to herself. She looked peaceful. If I stay on this job, I drag her into it, I said quietly. If you stay, you drag yourself under, Ben shot back. He is not trying to win her house. He's trying to break you. I swallowed. Sawdust felt stuck in my throat. What do I do? I asked. You walk away, he said. Today, before he uses her name to bury you. I did not give an answer. I just hung up and stood on the porch, drill in my hand, watching the yard while my brain tried to catch up. Elena stepped inside to grab her phone. When she came back out, her jaw was tight. They moved the inspection, she said. It was supposed to be noon. Now they want to come at 11:30. Who changed it? I asked. Unknown clerk, she said. No name. No answer when I called back. Her eyes flicked toward the street. A black SUV sat 2 houses down, engine idling. The windows were dark. A mail truck rolled up to her box, stuffed a thick envelope inside, then left. Elena walked down, grabbed it, and tore it open on the driveway. The city seal glared up from the top of the page in blue and red. New complaint, she said. Her voice had gone flat. Filed at 7:02 this morning. Of course it was. I grabbed a piece of chalk from my bag and started marking things. A thin white line on the porch beam where the new bracket sat. A circle around the upgraded panel. A small mark by the new joist hangers. A trail for the inspector's eye. Proof he could not pretend not to see. Elena watched, then turned back toward the house and dialed another number. I want written confirmation of the inspection time, she said. And I want it logged. If it changes again, I want names on that change. She hung up and looked at me. Now what? She asked. Now we finish, I said. Before they can move the goalposts again. Inside, I fixed little things. Things that were not on any report. The latch on her front door that had a little play. I tightened the screws. The loose strike plate. I adjusted it until the door caught clean. I added a simple door chain. Cheap. Strong. Enough to make me breathe easier. You're making my house safer, she said, watching from the hall. I'm making you harder to corner, I said. She did not thank me, but something in her. I said she heard more than my words. A few hours later, we were in the kitchen. The storm had passed. The light was soft. The kettle hissed on the stove. Elena moved around the space like it was hers again. She opened a drawer, pulled out a small paint sample strip, and held it up. I was thinking we could paint the trim this weekend, she said, like it was the most normal thing in the world. Paint the trim. Plan for a weekend. Say we, like it was permanent. The normal hit me harder than the storm. I stared at the thin line of steam coming from the kettle. My hands lay flat on the counter so she would not see them shake. I'm not going to be here this weekend, I said. She blinked once, then laughed, a small, confused sound. What? She asked. We have 2 weeks left. The inspection, most of the heavy work is done, I said. My voice came out too even. You can hire someone else for paint and small details. I have to go. Her face changed. The easy calm shattered. Hurt came up fast, then anger right behind it. Just like that, she asked. After last night? I forced myself to look right at her, to keep my face blank, my voice flat. It felt like using a hammer on my own ribs. Last night was fun, I said. But I have a career to think about. Her body went still. Then her chin lifted. Her armor snapped back into place. Right, she said. Of course you do. I set a blank invoice on the counter. No numbers. I could not bring myself to charge her. The last small act of service I allowed myself was stupid and small. I tightened the squeaky hinge on her back door with one quick turn so it would stop announcing every time she went outside. Then I grabbed my tool bag. Elena didn't try to stop me. She didn't cry. She didn't shout. But as I opened the door, I heard the sharp catch of her breath behind me. One small sound she did not mean to let slip. I walked to my truck without looking back. My hands did not start shaking until I turned the key. I drove 2 blocks before my phone buzzed. New email. Subject line, notice of complaint, contractor licensing review. Then another. Then another. Ben had been right. I pulled over, staring at the little glowing screen, seeing my whole career turning into paper cuts with Thorne's fingerprints all over them. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from Elena. No words. Just a photo of the condemnation notice still taped to her window. Under the red printed letters, in her handwriting, she had written one line. 48 hours. I set the phone down on the seat beside me and closed my eyes for a second, breathing like I had just run a mile. Walking away was supposed to protect her. Instead, it just meant she was standing in the path of the storm. Without me, I sat in my truck for a long minute, staring at that photo on my screen. The red notice. Her handwriting under it. 48 hours. Ben said walk away. Thorne wanted me scared. Elena was standing in a house that everybody seemed to think was a game piece except me and her. I did the only thing I could think to do that was not completely stupid. I drove to Ben's shop. He had a metal warehouse down by the tracks, full of scrap, old tools, and decent coffee. When I walked in, he already had a stack of papers laid out on the workbench. Thought you might come, he said. He pointed at the pages. Printed emails, complaint forms, licensing notices, dates, times, all lined up in neat rows. Anonymous complaints, he said. Different names. Same language. Same timing. All filed right after you took jobs Thorne wanted. My name was on every page. This is Thorne, I said. Yeah, Ben said. He is tightening the clamp. He wants you jumpy. He wants you to lash out so he can call you unstable and finish you. I stared at the print until the words blurred. What do I do? I asked. Document everything, Ben said. Every call. Every inspection change. Get Elena to file her own complaint. She has weight with the city. You don't. Elena has enough to carry, I said. Well, she is already carrying it, he said. Only question is if you are going to stand there with her or leave her holding the bag alone. My phone buzzed again. I looked down. Another email. Another complaint. Then, right under it, a new message from Elena. This time it was not a picture. It was a line of text. Are you really going to let him scare you away? I swallowed hard. Ben watched my face. Don't, he said. If you go back now and just swing at Thorne, he wins. You can't fight him with anger. I'm not going back to swing at him, I said. Then why are you going? Ben asked. Because I told her she was on her own, I said. And I was lying when I acted like that did not matter. Before he could argue, I grabbed my jacket and walked out. By the time I reached Elena's street, the sky was gray again, low and heavy. The storm had passed, but the world still looked wrung out. Branches were piled along the curb. Mud streaked the sidewalks. Her house was still standing. The notice was still taped to the window. I knocked once and stepped inside when she called. It's open. The power was out. She had a camping stove on the counter, a little blue flame heating water in a dented metal pot. The kitchen was lit by pale daylight and one candle. She wore jeans, a soft black t-shirt, and my work flannel over it. Her hair was tied up in a messy knot. She looked like she had been awake all night. The air smelled like wet earth and bitter coffee. You came back, she said. No smile. No relief on her face. Just facts. I saw your text, I said. She stirred the pot with a wooden spoon like this was just any morning. I called the licensing board, she said. Elena, I started. You do not have to drag yourself into this. Thorne already dragged me into it, she cut in. 3 months ago. She reached to the side and pulled a folder off the counter. She flipped it open and laid the pages out between us. Printed emails, screenshots, date stamps, his name, his company domain. In June he invited me to a private dinner, she said, voice calm and sharp at the same time. He said if I came alone, he could make sure my zoning issues went away. He implied my campaign would get support. When I refused, we suddenly had surprise audits. Little violations that were never violations before. She tapped one line on an email. His words were polite on the surface, ugly underneath. I documented everything, she said. I just did not want to be the woman who had to use it. I looked at the pages, at her neat highlight marks, at the dates that matched the complaints Ben had found against me. He has been circling you for months, I said. Yes, she said. And now he is circling you. That is why I called the board. I told them I am prepared to go public if I see one more anonymous complaint tied to this address or your name. I stared at her. at the steady way her hands moved as she poured hot water over coffee grounds in a glass jar, at the way her jaw clenched and relaxed like she was tired of being pushed. A knock hit the front door. Sharp. Official. We both turned. "That will be the inspector," she said. "You ready?" I asked. "No," she said, "but I am done backing up." We walked to the door together. The inspector stood on the porch in a rain jacket, clipboard under his arm. Behind him, just like yesterday, a dark SUV sat at the curb. Marcus Thorne leaned against it in a dry coat, hands in his pockets, eyes cool. "Morning, ma'am," the inspector said. "I am here for the complaint and follow-up." "Of course," Elena said. He stepped past us and walked the porch. He checked the new posts. He ran his hand along the bracing. He looked at the chalk marks I had drawn. He opened the panel, studied the clean wiring, and nodded. Thorne stayed at the bottom of the steps. "You should look closely," Thorne said to the inspector. "This place is dangerous." The inspector did not even look at him. "I am," he said. He finished his circuit and came back to the porch. He clicked his pen once and scribbled something on the top form. Then he looked up at Elena. "Passed," he said. "Up to code. If we get another complaint, we will come again. But as of today, this structure is sound." He tore off the top sheet, handed it to her, and walked back to his truck. Gravel crunched under his boots. The engine started. He drove away. For a second, there was only the sound of water dripping from the eaves and wind in the trees. Then Thorne straightened. "This is not over," he said. Elena stepped down one stair. Close enough to talk low. Close enough that I could see the pulse in her throat. "Yes, it is," she said. She opened the folder in her hand just enough for him to see the first page. His email. His words. His signature. "This goes to the council and the press," she said in a quiet voice. "And to the board. Unless you stop." His eyes moved over the page. His jaw tightened. A muscle jumped near his temple. "You would not do that," he said. "Try me," she said. She fanned the stack a little so he could see there was more. Screenshots. Dates. A pattern that would look very bad in a hearing. "You walk away," she continued. "You stop filing complaints. You stop calling boards. You stop sending cars to watch my house. If I hear your name tied to my address or his again, I send all of this." He stared at her. At me. At the house behind us. Rage moved across his face, quick and hot. Then something else slid in behind it. Calculation. Fear. "You are making a mistake," he said. "Maybe," she said. "But at least it is mine." He held her gaze for a long second. Then he turned and walked to his SUV. When the car pulled away, the whole street felt different. Lighter. Quieter. Elena's shoulders dropped an inch. She turned back toward me. "Controlled vulnerability comes after action," she said softly, almost to herself. "What?" I asked. "You told me that," she said, without saying the words. I did not remember saying it, but I understood. "I am scared of losing you," I said. The words slipped out before I could swallow them. "Not to him," I added. "To the way he makes people break themselves." Something in her face softened. The hard lines in her eyes eased. "Then do not leave next time," she said. We stood there on the porch, just looking at each other, while the house behind us settled and the wind moved through the trees like a long breath finally let go. 6 months later, the sign at the end of the drive read High Tower Pottery and Restoration. The porch did not sag anymore. The studio windows were new and tight. The house did not feel like it was bracing for impact. It felt like it had decided to live. I stood on that same porch, sanding an old chair. Sawdust floated in the warm air. Elena stepped out with 2 mugs of coffee. She handed me one without saying anything. Acts of service went both ways now. Her hair was pinned up. There was a faint line of clay along her wrist from the studio. The smell of earth and kiln heat came from the open door behind her. "You are tracking sawdust into my studio again," she said. "I am adding character," I said. She rolled her eyes, but the smile at the corner of her mouth was real. Inside, I could hear the soft ticking of a cooling kiln. The shelves were lined with bowls and mugs, each a little different, nothing perfect, everything intentional. "My mother is coming next week," Elena said, leaning against the post. "She wants to meet the partner." "Business partner?" I asked. "Life partner," she corrected. My heart did that stupid jump thing in my chest. "What did you tell her?" I asked. "That you are a terrible painter," she said, eyes bright. "But you kiss really well." She stepped closer, into my space, hands sliding up to rest on my chest, fingers curling lightly in my t-shirt. Her thumb brushed my lower lip once, slow, a familiar spark in her eyes. "I dare you," she whispered. I felt my own smile start, small and sure. "Only if you promise not to laugh," I said. She did not laugh. She leaned in. And this time when I kissed her, there was no storm outside. No countdown on a window. No fear of collapse. Just a house we had saved, a life we were building, and the quiet knowledge that for once, I had not walked away. When her lips met mine this time, everything felt different. There was no fear that the house might come down around us. No inspector on the way. No clock in my head counting down 48 hours. Just her mouth, warm and sure against mine, her fingers curling into my shirt like she knew exactly what she wanted and was done pretending she did not. I kissed her slow, letting myself feel all of it. The way she relaxed into me. The way her shoulders softened. The way the tension she wore like armor melted, piece by piece, under my hands. She pulled back first, just enough to look up at me. "Still nervous?" she asked. "Every time," I said, but not in a bad way. She laughed softly. Not mocking. Not sharp. Just happy. "Good," she said. "You should be. My mother is a lot scarier than any city inspector." I groaned. "You are not helping." She grinned and stepped away, taking my mug to refill it. Inside, the studio buzzed with quiet life. Shelves full of pieces in different stages. Some raw and pale. Some glazed and bright. Some finished and waiting for people who had no idea they needed them yet. The kiln clicked as it cooled. The air was warm and smelled like clay, soap, and coffee. While she was at the counter, I walked to the doorway and looked back at the house. The porch posts were straight and solid. The braces were still where I had set them. The walls were painted now, clean white with dark trim. The same line where the condemnation notice had once hung was empty. The house looked settled, like it was done being tested. "You are staring again," Elena called out. "At what?" I asked. "At the house," she said. "Like you were waiting for it to apologize." I came back in and leaned on the counter across from her. "It tried to kill us once," I said. "I'm not sure I forgive it yet." "You are the one who put your shoulder under that beam," she reminded me. "If anyone should be apologizing, it is you." "Sorry for saving your porch," I said. "Apology accepted," she said, but her eyes were soft. She handed me my mug and nodded toward the open window. "Ben is early," she said. His old truck rattled up the drive. He hopped out with a box in his hands and a smug look on his face. "You know you two have a sign out there now," he said as he stepped onto the porch. "Looks real official. Hightower Pottery and Restoration. Very married couple energy." Elena wiped her hands on a towel and met him at the door. "Do not scare him," she said. "I still need him to fix the sink in the bathroom." "I am not scared," I said. Ben raised his eyebrows. "Her mother lands in 3 hours." "Okay," I said. "Now I am scared." He laughed and set the box on the table. "Got your updated license," he said to me. "Board cleared you. All complaints closed. All notes removed. You are clean." The words hit me harder than I expected. "Clean," I repeated. "Yeah," Ben said. "Elena's evidence did most of the work. The rest was me being annoying on the phone." He nudged the edge of the box toward me. Inside sat a fresh laminated card and a formal letter on thick paper. "Contractor license. Active. Good standing." Elena rested her hand on my arm. "See," she said. "You did not break. You bent." "I was pretty close," I admitted. "So was the house," she said. "But you fixed both." Ben glanced between us and shook his head. "I liked it better when you were just grumpy and single," he said. "Now you say things like that, and I feel like I should leave the room." "Go to the back bathroom," Elena said, pointing toward the hall. "The sink is dripping. If you want to avoid romance, fix something." "That is your man's job," Ben said. "It is my man's job to stay in one piece until my mother leaves," Elena said. "You can handle the sink." Ben saluted her and disappeared down the hall. She turned back to me. "My man," I repeated. "You do not like that?" she asked. "I like it a lot," I said. She studied my face for a second. "What?" I asked. "You look like you are waiting for someone to take it away," she said. I thought about that. About all the times I had lost things when I started to trust them. Jobs, houses, people, habit, I said. She stepped closer, leaned her hip against mine, and slid her fingers between my own. "New habit," she said. "You look at me when you get scared, not at the door." I did. Her eyes were steady. brown with little gold specks near the center. Her hair was pulled up, a few strands falling loose near her cheek. There was a smear of clay on her jaw she had missed. I reached up and wiped it away with my thumb, feeling her lean into the touch. "You remember the first night?" she asked. "When I dared you?" "How could I forget?" I said. "You opened the door and tried to pretend you were not terrified." "I was not terrified of the house," she said. "What then?" I asked. She shrugged one shoulder. "Of letting anyone see me need something," she said. "Then you showed up with a drill and a stupid gray shirt and made it look easy to lean on. Someone." "It was not easy," I said. "I know," she said. "That is why it mattered." We worked the rest of the morning in easy rhythm. She checked the kiln and trimmed a set of mugs. I repaired a loose step on the back porch, cleaned my tools, and brought in a load of firewood for the weekend. Small things, but they stacked up into a feeling I was still getting used to. Stable. Around noon, a car door slammed outside. "That is her," Elena said. I wiped my hands and stood a little straighter without meaning to. Elena's mother walked up the path with the same chin lift her daughter had. Shorter, silver streaks in her dark hair, sharp eyes that missed nothing. She wore a neat coat and carried a small overnight bag. She hugged Elena first, tight and long. Then she turned to me. "So," she said, "you are the man with one bed and too many tools." Heat crawled up the back of my neck. "Yes, ma'am," I said. Elena nudged my side. "He hates being called ma'am," she told her mother. "Good," her mother said. "It means he is honest." "I am Anna." She held out her hand. Her grip was firm, like her daughter's. "Liam," I said. She looked around the porch, at the straight posts, at the sign by the drive, at the open door of the studio. "This house was a mess," she said. Elena sent photos. "Yes," I said. "And now it is standing," she said. "Yes," I repeated. She studied me for a long second and then gave a small nod. "Thank you for not leaving," she said. "She acts like she does not need anyone. That is her father's side. It is very annoying." Elena groaned. "Mom." Anna smiled and patted her arm. We spent the afternoon showing her the studio, the kiln, the plans for a small gallery room Elena wanted to add to the back. Anna asked real questions. "How much will that load? Where will the new wall tie into the old foundation?" She was not just being polite. She was checking. When she finally went inside to take a call, Elena and I were left alone on the porch again. "You survived," she said. "Barely," I said. "I think she likes me." "She does," Elena said. "She told me she only worries about men who impress her too quickly. You made her work for it." "High praise," I said. The sun was low now, turning the yard gold again like the first day I came. I watched the light hit the trim we had painted, the boards we had saved, the roof we had braced. I listened to the small, normal sounds inside. A cabinet door, a kettle, the rustle of someone moving in a house that no longer feared breaking. "You know," Elena said quietly, "if you had really walked away that day, I would have let this place go." "No, you would not," I said. "Yes," she said. "I was one bad inspection away from selling it to Thorne just to stop fighting. You backing out would have felt like proof." "Proof of what?" I asked. "That I was too much effort," she said. "Too messy. Too much risk. You leaving would have fit the story I already told myself." I turned to face her fully. "I am glad I did not," I said. "Me too," she said. She moved closer again, our shoulders almost touching, our hands brushing. "Liam," she said. "Yeah?" I asked. She looked up at me, that same spark in her eyes from the first night, nothing between us now but choice. "I dare you to keep staying," she said, "even when it is hard, even when the house is fixed and the story is boring." I exhaled, a breath I did not know I had been holding. "Only if you promise not to laugh," I said. "Why would I laugh?" she asked. "Because I am about to say something very not cool," I said. Her smile curved, soft and patient. "Say it," she said. I swallowed once. "I love you," I said. "Not just the way you fight. Not just the way you stand on porches and make demands. I love you when you are tired and messy and scared and still decide to stay. I love you in this house. I would love you in any house. But I like this one best." She did not laugh. Her eyes went shiny instead. She lifted her hands to my face, palms warm against my jaw. "I promise," she whispered. "No laughing. Just this." She kissed me again, slow and certain. The kind of kiss that felt less like a dare and more like an answer. Behind us, the house creaked. Not in warning. In the soft, settling way would makes when it is finally done fighting the storm. For the first time in a long time, I believed it. We were not going anywhere.
If this story stayed with your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends.